Welcome to the Buck Stops here, the official audio show of NotInHallOfFame.com, and I'm your host, Kirk Buchner, the Buck, owner and operator of NotInHallOfFame.com and the sister sites, the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame and the Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's Season 1, Episode 37 of the Hall of Fame show, and Evan, Nolan, and I, we look at the passing of Toots Hibbert, reggae legend and probably one of the most important musicians that really doesn't get his international due. We also looked briefly at our impending United States Athletic Hall of Fame and just a couple tweaks that we're not quite sure how we're going to work on moving forward. I also looked at the death of my fantasy football team, which is just me whining, but hey, what else is new? But really the meat of our show today is the preliminary list of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who announced 130 preliminary candidates for the class of 2021. And it's actually a lot better than their list the year before. Which seems like, how can that be when you have 130? Like, how can it be much better? Well, it really is. So we took a look at that, and without further ado, let's bring in Evan. Evan Nolan, how goes everything in the great city of Chicago, Illinois?
Goes pretty well for the first time in forever, not to quote Disney there. Both baseball teams are good at the same time. And they're both going to be in the playoffs. Right now, the White Sox are the 1 seed, and the Cubs are the 2 seed in the 16-team bracket that is apparently staying forever, which is a whole thing I'm not that excited about.
You think it will?
That's what they seem to. That's what the guy who hates baseball more than anything seemed to indicate the other day.
Rob Manfred.
Yeah, I'm just going to call him the guy who hates baseball more than anything from now on. I don't really want to say his name.
That works for me. It's like I've got some American friends who refuse to call Trump anything but 45. I get it.
Fair enough. So, yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. It's been a long time since the both. I can't even remember the last time both teams were at the same time. Seriously.
I'm not even sure. I can't even think of that.
08? 08, maybe? That was probably the end of that White Sox team that won the 05 World Series, and the Cubs were frisky around them. But it's, and I mean, Mitch Trubisky fever, you got to catch it. It only lasts for a quarter, but, you know, good for them.
Oh, nice. I will say, since we're on the topic of baseball playoffs, if they are going to keep this moving forward, please drop the 3-game series as an opener, because there's going to be a lot of garbage teams that might just advance, just get hot. I hate a 3-game series in baseball. I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the 3-game series is dumb. I will say, though, that if they moved it to 8, that would be good for... the Rays have been doing no fine on their own, but the Blue Jays, Rays, and Orioles, the Red Sox, I'm not sure actually played a baseball game this year because I haven't paid any attention. But normally with the Red Sox and Yankees at the top, those teams have had a tough time getting through. The second wild card helped, but if there's now 5 wild cards, now they all have a legitimate shot. I mean, the Blue Jays could probably finish 3rd in that division and still make the playoffs.
It's looking pretty good like that they will, because I know that all the fans in Buffalo hoping to sort of attend a game are really pumped for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing like cold Buffalo weather. As someone who's been to his share of Bills games, my God! And I'm
just sad they fell to 3rd place, because for a while the best baseball team in the state of New York was the Blue Jays.
I never even thought of that.
But now, yeah, the Yankees got hot and the Blue Jays had a bad week, so they fell a couple games. I think 2.5 back. So
yeah, I think they were on their way to losing at the NFL on, which I now have on pause. So I can sort of focus on this. We have interesting news in Barbados, though, that I think is sort of interesting.
Oh, you do? What is it?
Well, again, nobody's coming here for Caribbean politics, but I think this is pretty neat. Next year, Barbados will officially sever its ties with the United Kingdom and no longer be part of part of the whole governor generalship and part of the extended Commonwealth.
Yeah, I saw that actually. I meant to ask you how's everybody taking it down there?
Nobody gives a shit. But for the most part,
that's what I figured.
It's a cost-cutting move, and something that I hope Canada does. We waste $32 million a year having a governor general that does nothing.
Yeah, I also saw it was the first one of them to do it in like 30 years. Seems crazy.
Yeah. So I
mean, how many are left?
I don't even know. I mean, I don't think it was all that hard for them to sort of do this. And again, it's not like this is an anti-monarchy thing or an anti-UK thing. This is a cost-cutting move, and it's not like there's anyone in Barbados thinking, you know what, we hate Britain. Nobody here thinks that. They rely on the UK for tourism. It's just a matter of saving money and exiting an outdated colonial system. That's all that it is. As for Canada, we still have the Queen on virtually everything, so I don't see that going away anytime soon.
And you have Regina, which is named after them, right?
That is true. That is true.
So
Victoria.
Yeah, I was gonna say
all sorts of them.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed that you're watching the football game to determine what's the second best football team in Ohio. I mean, Ohio State, and then whoever wins this game.
Ooh, I like that. And the Big Ten is back.
Yeah, it is back, but.
I get
everyone
it.
is so weak. Everyone is so weak-kneed. Like, if you make a decision, stick with it. And then you have. I'm sorry. Let me go on a little bit of rant now. You have the
please.
University of Georgia. You hear what they did this week?
No, what they do?
So they have football on campus, but they have eliminated all the polling stations on campus or the voting stations because they don't want people getting COVID. But they'll have football stuff. Which makes me think, why don't they just make the football stadium into the place they vote, if apparently that's safe enough?
I you know what? I got nothing. I could go into a giant whole U.S. politics thing. I promised myself I'd avoid it and just stick with my Barbados thing and just sort of appeal to Canada to actually follow suit, which I know won't. But
right. Well, when you said an outdated system, finally getting rid of an outdated system, I'm like, yeah, the electoral college. But anyway, let's stay out of that. That's enough. So congratulations on becoming a republic, I guess. And
yes, I feel.
God save the Queen.
Still a great song. God save the Queen.
Yeah.
No future. Sorry. Sex Pistols, for those who had no idea what I was trying to do. So before we sort of go into our regular thing, I had something I wanted to ask you about our impending U.S. Hall of Fame. So I've been playing around with a bunch of nominees, and I've got my prelim list. And I know I've got to send. I'll send it off to you, and then we can sort of like play with that. I don't have that many women on it, and there's going to be a lot of great ones once eligible. And for those just listening to this for the first time, Evan and I are in the process of creating an online United States Athletic Hall of Fame because amazingly one doesn't exist. And we agreed that the cutoff date... Remarkably, I am stunned. And we sort of agreed that to qualify, just to keep it universal, the age of that athlete has to be 50. So there's going to be a lot of great ones coming up. Serena Williams, I think, will be a first ballot inductee.
Yes.
Perhaps Ronda Rousey. I'm not really sure, but possibly.
I mean, Serena and her sister Venus should be as well.
Yes. Naomi Osaka.
Ronda Rousey, I'm not as sure.
Yeah, I'm not as sure either. But if Naomi Osaka keeps going the way she is, that's another excellent one. Mia Hamm, it would be 2 years from now because I looked her up today. She's 48. So Megan Rapinoe, and now I'm saying her name right. I had no idea I was saying her last name wrong all this time. I guess me and a lot of other people, because that's how I always heard it pronounced. So my apologies to Ms. Rapinoe. But when I go back to that, there's not a whole lot of women who I think would qualify. And we said that we would have the first class being a pretty big one of 25. Mm-hmm. do we separate women and just to make sure that we have at least one get in?
I think we've had this conversation on the pod before.
But I don't know that we decided anything. I know we decided.
Yeah, I don't think we did either. I think we were on it to see exactly what the rest of the people on the committee might think, and it may also depend on how the votes go. Like, we need a separate one. I'll just pick Martina Navratilova for the heck of it. So if Martina Navratilova somehow ends up in the top 25, then I don't think it's not necessarily necessary. But whatever, the top 20, I can't remember exactly all our own rules yet at the moment. Mm-hmm. I need them written down in front of me. But it's entirely possible if you think about it. We're doing 20, and then some other people from other categories.
Right.
It's entirely possible that you're not going to have any women for a while if we don't do it.
Right. And I don't want us to sort of come across misogynistic, but realistically, if we look at those who are eligible for that, let's use Navratilova because she would be one of my top women. Her, Babe Didrikson Zaharias is actually yeah, that's my top one. But I can make a case for 20 men over her. Althea Gibson, right. But I can make a case for 20 men over her.
Yeah, Florence Griffith-Joyner, Billie Jean King. I'm just trying to think of them. These are just ones coming off the top of my head here.
Yeah, Jackie Joyner-Kersee is another one.
Jackie Joyner-Kersee.
Chris Everett.
I didn't hear you.
Chris Everett.
Oh, Chris Everett, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chrissy Everett as well. Mary Lou Retton. So, even someone like Bonnie Blair, who's definitely deserving. I think the Olympic athletes are going to have a tough enough time getting in as it is. Mm-hmm. Unless it's one of the major, it's Mary Lou Retton was kind of a national figure. She'll probably have an easier time than a Bonnie Blair, even though Bonnie Blair is a more decorated athlete. I don't know. I still think we need to put it to everybody. But if it's looking like we're in a situation in which, I could easily just name 20 people off the top of my head that I think would likely end up in the hall before any woman, and then I could probably come up with another 15 to 20 again who could easily do the same. I think we might be in trouble. So it's entirely possible we might, but I still think we should put it to the group and figure it out ahead of time.
Okay.
Once we have the group finalized. But I think the more I think about it, because we talked about something 3 weeks ago, a month ago, something on the pod. Mm-hmm. The more I think about it, the more I think you're right. I think that there's not going to be a woman unless we create a woman category, at least to start. And then once the problem is this is starting so late, right? So Babe Ruth and Willie Mays and Jesse Owens and Bill Russell and whoever, just keep going on and on. The list should already be in. So because of that, there's just such a backlog. We may need at least to start and then let it stand on its own after we've cleared out the first 100. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because we've talked about this with other halls, like how the St. Louis Cardinals had to sort of play catch up, and they've done a great job. But that first class, there's only so much you can really do once you've sort of put yourself in that position. And the only good thing we can say is, hey, it's not our fault. It should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. We should not be coming up with this in 2020. Today is the 100th anniversary of the NFL. The actual 100th anniversary of the founding of the NFL is September 17th of 1920. And so it's not like they haven't had time to figure this out. When the oldest team in continuing existence is the Phillies. I think it's the Phillies, right? 1886.
Were the Braves predating that too?
The Braves may have been. I think the Phillies. I don't know. Well, I'll have to look that up. But yeah. I'm pretty sure the Phillies are 1886 is when they were founded. So let's just say they are for the sake of this argument. That's 134 years ago. we always say teams should start their Hall of Fames 25 years in.
Mm-hmm.
So we're only behind by 109 years.
Well, and to be fair, as old as we're getting, we're not that old. Even combined, we're not that age.
Oh, man, you made me feel better. By the way, you said the other day that you're in the back nine. You're not in the back nine, my friend. You are in the middle six.
That sounds better. That sounds a lot better.
It sounds a lot better, doesn't it?
Oh, my God, yeah, it does.
I was thinking about that when you said it the other day, but I went mini golfing with my kids, and I was like, no, this is like there were six, and then there was like another it was weirdly divided on the card. So it's like, yeah, this is the middle six.
So I'm basically in my fifth beer, and then I'm usually at that point, and that's when I sort of like flag down the golf cart girl, and I just like bought 3. Just so that I'd have it. So I'm on my 5th.
I guess.
I'm on my 5th, and I've got a 6th one there, and then usually I open up that 7th before I finish the 6th.
All right.
All right, I'm on my 5th.
I'm enjoying 23. I'm enjoying 23 flavors of Dr. Pepper. So, please sponsor us. Thanks. Anyway,
well, I'm just talking metaphor.
What you wanted to talk about.
It's one of those.
Sorry.
I was just saying that was more metaphoric. I'm not actually on my 5th beer right now. I'm just saying that if I was playing a round of golf. Okay, I wasn't sure. But yeah, we've got. It's funny. So you sent me this message like on Twitter. So the streak is broken. Don't we have to start there?
Yeah. Well, the streak is back.
Oh, that's true. The streak is back, yeah.
We in the factory there had the number of weeks since we had a Hungarian Olympic athlete pass away. And we had like 19 consecutive weeks, and last week we had nobody. And this week we have the dearly departed Laszlo Galos, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, who is a member of the 1964 Summer Olympic volleyball team for Hungary.
Did they win?
So basically, whoever's responsible for all this is just took a week off. They took vacation, and now they're back at it.
I feel like whoever's sort of doing that, it might be sort of like part of like the C team of the Avengers, before they sort of like make a face turn. So it's not like Black Widow; it's just sort of like Beige Widow.
Beige Fiance.
Yeah, there you go. Beige Fiance. Just like that's. Okay, we're just going to give you this task, and what's the point of it? We've got our reasons.
Yeah. So, and we're back. We'll see how many consecutive weeks we go this time through. But yeah, we are back to losing Hungarian Olympic athletes. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
But there's
so are we starting? Are we starting there? Are we going into the bigger news that was announced? Was it today or yesterday? One of the 2 days.
For the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, pro football. Or do you want to go to Toots first?
Let's go to Toots.
Okay.
Yeah, so like a big name in reggae. Not as well known as he really should be, but if you're a follower of the genre, like. A lot of people say they love reggae. Oh, you like reggae? Yeah. What do you like? Bob. I love Marley. What else? Didn't he have a kid?
Ziggy Marley?
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, and then of course there was Marley and Me. Like no, that wasn't the song. But
and Moon Unit.
Yes. But in terms of like overall impact of that genre, Toots Hibbert is like one of the big 3, or like I always talk about the Mount Rushmore of things. He's the Mount Rushmore on the Mount Rushmore of reggae. Maybe it didn't necessarily translate outside into like a pop culture, or sort of like to a wide pop culture. You're not going to hear that sort of like on the boat when you're visiting Sandals or anything like that. But in terms of his impact, I mean, he's the man who might have coined the term reggae in a song called Do the Reggae, spelled differently, but, nevertheless, just an iconic figure. I don't want to say gone too soon because he was in his 70s, but I'm sad by this.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he was 77. died of complications from COVID.
Mm-hmm.
He'd been in a medically induced coma. I mean, I think I was surprised, and even he was surprised when he got in, that the second reggae act in the Rock Hall was Jimmy Cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Jimmy Cliff doesn't belong, but A, that they went to a second reggae act, and B, that it wasn't Toots and the Maytals. Not that Jimmy Cliff doesn't belong, because I think he does. It's just we had this discussion last week with Rob Bell,
right,
that with Kool and the Gang. Ron Bell, I'm sorry, thank you. With Ron Bell from Kool and the Gang. Just that the way the system was set up for the Rock Hall and how many favorites being played, there are a lot of deserving groups that have never even been nominated. And Toots and the Maytals, again, when it comes to influence, which is one of the big things that they look at, is right up there. I mean, in terms of their impact on a world beloved genre, not necessarily the biggest genre, but like, who doesn't like reggae?
I feel like there should be a joke answer, but I don't have one.
Yeah, because it's true. There's nobody who doesn't like reggae.
No,
so,
there really isn't. It's he brought it into like when I sort of hear his music, I always sort of like picture like bands like the Clash and the other two-tone ska bands being more influenced by Toots than a lot of other reggae acts. I don't know if you feel the same.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, ska is much more a Toots and Maytals thing than the Bob Marley and the Wailers thing.
No, definitely. And again, it's not that we're taking shots at Bob Marley, not at all. I mean, Marley is
definitely not.
Mm-hmm. It was a totally different style. So it's like when someone says, "Well, you've only heard like Marley," well, there's so much more. And I certainly encourage everyone listening, just take a bit, listen to some of Toots.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll be happy that you did.
Yeah. No, Toots and Maytals I have their greatest hits album in my CD collection because, like any person in their early 40s, I spent a lot of my youth investing my money in CDs, and not the bank ones. But no, I love Toots and Maytals. It's sad. He was sick. He caught COVID, but he was sick not that long. I mean, he had been performing as recently as a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. Still, so it's just sad that again, the problem with the Rock Hall and it's starting so late and then playing favorites is that there are so many people who just never got a chance to be voted on, like at least enough for down vote, and who deserved a minimum of that. And Toots and Maytals, in my opinion, should be in. And now, if they do get in, again, it will be posthumously. So,
and sadly, I don't even see them ever getting nominated.
You never know. I mean, one of the best things you can do to get nominated is get yourself dead. Unfortunately,
death is a great career move for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
If Janis Joplin is still alive today, I don't even know that she's in the Rock Hall.
Highly possible. Who knows?
But that's just
it's gonna be interesting when Amy Winehouse pops up.
It's gonna be very, very interesting. Definitely. I love Amy. Loved everything about her. One of my favorite albums definitely was Back in Black. Not Back in Black. Sorry, that's my favorite song. You know what I'm trying to say, although I'm not exactly wording this particularly well.
I have Fade to Black in my head, but I'm not sure that's right either. Hold on. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. Give me a second. It is... No, it's Back to Black. You're right.
Oh, look at that. Every now and then I get something right.
I thought you were right, and then you said you were wrong, and I got confused.
Well, then I had AC/DC in my head because I often confuse the two.
Well, Amy was a fast machine, but I'm pretty sure she did not keep her motor clean.
And once again, you win the call. Damn.
The things that randomly pop into my head, I don't know. Yeah, anyway, you could tell that joke was not set up, seeing as we couldn't even remember the name of the album.
No, exactly. Well, I wasn't expecting to talk about Amy today. I don't even know why I even brought that up.
Well, I brought up Amy just because she was part of the 27 Club.
Oh, that's true.
Of the people who died at age 27. So pretty much all of those guys are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Doors, Nirvana, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Amy Winehouse is part of that. So, I mean, a whole different era from most of them. But, yeah, so we shall see. By the way, I was doing my list. I'm compiling my list, finally, of the top musical acts eligible this year. Mm-hmm. And clearly, for the first time, there's a number one and a number two, and you can put them in whatever order. I have them Jay-Z 1, Foo Fighters 2. Mm-hmm. There's a huge drop to number 3. I was trying to determine who number 3 was, and I brought it down to 3 finalists. I want to know where you would rank these. And the third one, you're going to be like, I don't understand. You may not understand why I have them that high.
Okay.
But my 3 finalists are Wilco, Garbage, and the Chemical Brothers.
That would be the order I'd have them.
In that order? Wilco, Garbage, Chemical Brothers? Yeah.
Well, Chemical Brothers possibly over Garbage.
See, I'm not rational about Garbage because they're basically they may be my favorite band from the 90s overall, crazily. I listen to Garbage's greatest hits in my car constantly. So I know I'm not rational about that band. Yeah, so I mean, I clear Wilco is going to be much more of a critical darling than Garbage ever would be. And I asked my friends the same thing, and they said Garbage might go first, particularly if they're looking for a female-fronted band. But I mean, the Cranberries, I'd say, are a superior band, was fronted by a woman, and they haven't sniffed anything yet. So I don't think Garbage is ever getting in. I was just wondering where you put them.
Yeah,
so.
that'd be the order I'd put it. Almost with the Chemical Brothers being almost like a 2B.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that Butch Vig would play a factor into sort of the overall respect that Garbage would have, just from his work as a producer.
True.
So I think that's sort of the wild card that works in their favor.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering because this year has a lot of one-hit wonders and 1 and 2 hit wonders. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. Going through the whole group. Although one of them, I think, just became a 2-hit wonder. One of our 1-hit wonders, who's eligible this year for the first time, is Semisonic. And Semisonic just hit the charts, I think, for the second time. Yeah, they were apart for almost 20 years and got back together and made an album. And I think I just saw it hit like number 38 or 39 in the U.S. charts.
Is it called Reopening Time?
I'm sorry?
Reopening
Time? It is not. It is that's one of the most misunderstood songs. What that's about. Do you know what Closing Time is about?
I just watched something about that because it's not actually. Damn it, I can't remember. I was watching this YouTube guy named Todd in the Shadows, where it's literally a guy named Todd and he's in the shadows and he just does a retrospective on a 1-hit wonder. If I remember right, because I binged through all 40 of them that he had. Isn't it more about sort of like the passing of life and not necessarily the closing time of a bar?
It's the being born. It's a song about his wife's womb.
Oh, I definitely don't remember that. Okay. I do drink a lot.
This room won't be open. This room won't be open till your brother or your sister comes.
Man.
Yeah, so it's all about Closing time for you to go back to the places you will be from. Because you don't know, as soon as you are born, he's like, I remember the lead singer, whose name I can't remember, said that I'm from Minneapolis. So when my kid was born, they were born in Minneapolis. That's where they're from. So, yeah, it's not actually about a bar closing. It's about a womb giving birth life.
Well, there is that line, though, one last chance for alcohol.
I guess that's true. Oh, hey, they're from Minnesota. It's cold. What else are you going to do?
Yeah, there's that. I have to say, though, I've closed out many a bar on that, but I've never heard that song actually close out the bar.
Guess you need to go to Minnesota. I'm presuming that's the only way you can close a bar in Minnesota.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I really need to listen to Prince nonstop if I go to Minnesota.
That is also true. Yeah.
So there's a few...
Not Owl City. I'm trying to think of what other bands I can think of from Minnesota. Owl City is the only one that came to mind.
Yeah. Oh my god. So that might be one number one song that I don't want to do a retrospective of. And I'm plugging my other show. How the hell did this get to number one?
Well, I have to say, we actually have another death to discuss, which also goes very well into a song you may futurely do on How the Hell Did This Get to number one. A song that went to number one in 1971. The lead singer passed away. Do you know what song that is?
I do not.
I'll give you a hint. The lead singer was the sister of a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer who we talk about quite a lot.
71, sister. Was this a one-hit wonder?
I think they're technically a three-hit wonder, but all three were from the same album in 71. I guess they're from, two separate albums, but...
All right, so we've got...
It hit number one. It hit number one on the U.S. and R&B charts, and number 11 in Canada, and was certified gold.
Oh. It's okay, it's the R&B charts. Sister.
Another hint, they were the first band ever to perform on the first episode of Soul Train.
It's not Gladys Knight. That was before that.
Gladys Knight was on the first episode of Soul Train, but performed second.
Okay.
Who performed first on that episode?
The Other Pips.
I went and watched the episode today, so.
The Other Pips.
No, I think they were on Sesame Street at the time.
Oh, Jesus. I feel like I should really know this, and I'm blanking. I have no idea.
The lead singer's name is Edna Reich.
That doesn't actually
she was with the band Honeycomb, who had their song Want Ads.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's one of those songs I don't even know that well.
Yeah, it hit number one in March of 1971. It's an awesome song. I can honestly say I had never heard of it before. I somehow missed it on whatever radio stations I was listening to growing up, and I had never heard it since. It was an excellent song, but she passed away at the age of, how old was she? She passed away, she was 75 or 76. They don't actually have a birth date for her, but she passed away on the 12th, so on Saturday. Yeah, the band The Honeycomb, younger sister of Darlene Love. Originally a backup singer for the Righteous Brothers, Ray Charles, and Cher before she got her big chance. So,
yeah, Darlene Love, yes, definitely someone we have talked about quite a bit as one of the more, and again, not a shot at Darlene Love, but she does not have a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame career.
No, she does not. She has still, to this day, has a ridiculous voice as an almost 80-year-old. But she has one hit, and it is a Christmas novelty song.
You know, if you're going to have one great Christmas hit, it might as well be that one. It'd be sort of like Mariah Carey only being known for All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that song is one of the best ones at Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
The song they need to play more, I'm asking radio stations, I'm sure they're all listening to us, but asking radio stations to play more of it, is I want Dean Martin's It's a Marshmallow World in Winter. Can I hear more of that as opposed to like the same 9 songs all the time?
Okay.
Let's branch out a little bit.
All right, you want to blow your mind? Come down here at Christmas time, and it's a bunch of songs you never heard of. Because all the Christmas songs here,
Christmas donkey.
And I wish it was stuff like that. It's like I never heard of any of these. I had to go to a doctor's office for nothing really. That I don't know why I'm stalling when I'm saying this. It really was nothing. So I'm going there, and then it's like I'm hearing all this Christmas music, and she says to me like, "Oh, they're playing the same stuff." Like I never heard any of these songs. I never heard of any of this. Like it's.
I still remember when my wife and I spent New Year's 2009 in Indonesia, and we had to take on my birthday. No, it was right the day after my birthday. The day after my 30th birthday, we had to take a ferry from the island of Lombok to the island of Bali,
mm-hmm.
and so they had a CD just on there, and they were just playing essentially the Asian version of Eurovision songs over and over and over again. They're being repeated, and it couldn't have been that long a thing. And they were just like, "What is this music?" And everyone's like jamming along to it. And the one song I remember, I will never forget because we heard it 3 times, was the lyrics went, "I'm in love for the very first time. I'm a shark in a general line. I feel joy, laughter, love ever after. I'm in love for the very first time." And we're like, what the hell is a shark in a general line? I don't get it. And they just kept playing the song. So I'll never forget that song, to a line to a song I'm never going to hear again, unless I guess I go to Southeast Asia.
I've had to go to Indonesia twice. I say had to because, well, I married an Indonesian.
Well, that's the reason.
That's a pretty good reason. Well, that's pretty much the main reason I went there. Your memory there is a lot better than mine because both times I got sick and both times I was around a bunch of her relatives who don't like me.
Well, I also got sick because I decided to accidentally swallow the water of the River Ayong, which I would not recommend. And I also, on my 30th birthday, got bitten by a monkey and then went back to my hotel room and shocked myself. I didn't electrocute myself because electrocute yourself, you die. But I shocked myself and got knocked on my butt because there was an exposed wire on our lamp.
Which just goes to show you, Indonesia 2, podcasters who talk about halls of fame, nothing.
Yeah, I would go back to Indonesia. I really enjoyed that. I'm just upset I didn't get any superpowers. I think I had to be bitten by an electric monkey.
Well, maybe
for that to happen.
Maybe Electric Monkey. Somebody must have put out an album called Electric Monkey. Had to be.
I'm guessing it's Mooney in it. Sorry.
And I just have my Frank Zappa T-shirt on too.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Incredibles T-shirt. It says Incredible Bad and it just says Mr. Incredible on it. So. Anyway, do you want to just run through a few more of these deaths to get to the main event here, or?
Yeah, because I don't have any segue. Also, I don't know who the other deaths are, so I can't even try to segue onto that. So, yeah.
Well, there we go. So just quickly, most of them we don't have to spend a bunch of time on. But we have coach of the 1975 Women's Championship basketball team, Old Dominion Monarchs, Sonny Allen, passed away at the age of 84. We had Mark Newman, who is the scout who's the scout for the Yankees, who signed Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, Bernie Williams, and Andy Pettitte, among others, which seems to be a pretty good list of people that are signed. He passed away at the age of 71. We had, hold on a second. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. We had Al Kasha, who was an American songwriter, won 2 Oscars for The Morning After from the Poseidon Adventure, and We May Never Love Like This Again from The Towering Inferno, as well as writing a whole bunch of other things that you probably know, Pete's Dragon and stuff. A whole bunch of other stuff from the late 70s. He passed away at the age of 83. We have 1963 Grandmaster table tennis world champion Wang Zhilang passed away at 79. I know that's a big thing, but if you're world champion for a year, you get at least a passing mention here. We had 1964 Olympic bronze medalist swimmer John Ferris from the United States passed away at the age of 71. Then we have three somewhat interesting ones that I left for the end here. We had Roy Charles Hammond, best known for his a couple of songs he had with a group called the Honey Drippers, which are not those Honey Drippers. But he had one song called Impeach the President back in 1973 about Richard Nixon, which is actually a pretty good song, but it's most famous for its drums that it used as a backing track. That drum backing track has hit the top 40 on 11 different occasions. So it's one of the most sampled songs of all time.
I'm going to have to search that out after.
Yeah, it's a good song. I highly recommend it. It's only about 3.5 minutes long, but you'll hear the drum part, and you're like, oh my God, where have I heard that before? And you just go look it up. You're like, oh yeah, I've seen it all these places. So he didn't even know it was being sampled for a long period of time and didn't get anything on it. And then I believe it was Mary J. Blige just made sure he got a writing credit. And then everybody from then on gave him writing credits. I don't think people realized that that he wasn't getting credited and money for it. But he passed away. He went by Roy C., but Roy Charles Hammond was 81 when he passed away earlier this week. The other two here, Jack Kelly, who is the father of David E. Kelly, and played for was one of the original Whalers back in the day. It was the front offices of the Red Wings and Penguins. Also won 6 Bean Pots back in Boston. And was WHA Coach of the Year, among other things. But he passed away at the age of 93. He is a member of the World Hockey Association Hall of Fame. But he was one of those guys who's around for a long time in hockey and was the president of the team back in 92 and 93 when they won the Cups. So and again, famous son, but he passed away at 93 earlier this week. And finally, I'm going to give you the name of the person, and you tell me which member of our fictitious athlete Hall of Fame he created. The man who passed away at the age of 77 was named Winston Groom.
Winston Groom. God. Wait a minute. He's already in the fictitious athlete Hall of Fame?
Yes, it's already in the fictitious athlete Hall of Fame, created in 1986, although that's not when they became famous. It happened after 86.
So Winston Groom created this?
Winston Groom wrote the book. That the future media was created. So he created the character, wrote the book, and then it was adapted.
Oh, wait a minute. No, Field of Dreams isn't in this. They don't have any inductee yet. But that was written by someone else. The Natural? No, it couldn't be in 86. Because that was before that. Let's see. No one.
I'll give you one more hint.
Okay.
He went to the University of Alabama.
Oh, okay, yes, Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, creator of Forrest Gump, Winston Groom, passed away at the age of 77 on today, actually, earlier today. So there you are. That is the rundown of all the dead folks.
And the Beach Dogs, the fantasy football league team that I have, Michael Thomas is hurt for the next 3 weeks, and that was my number 1 pick. So, yeah, they're dead too.
Michael Thomas is on my team as well. He was my number 2 pick, only because we only have 8 teams. I was picking 8th, so I picked Lamar Jackson first, Michael Thomas second. But it's not the greatest. I already have 3 people. We have 3 IR spaces for the first time, and I already have 3 IR. I have 3 people in IR already for 1 week. So,
oh well.
Although one who was on IR to start, so I knew Deebo Samuel was going to be in IR, which is why I picked him to hold on to him, so I'd have an extra spot. You know what I mean? So,
such is life for the beach dogs. I still have the best. I still have the best home field.
That's a good segue.
Well, actually, yes, it is. Because big thing today. The Pro Football Hall of Fame announced their preliminary group, and I like it a lot better than last year. 130 players. Last year was 122. So they've kind of took care of a few names that should have been on there last year. And you came up with sort of a fun way to look at it. Well, I guess we'll just sort of go through the list by position, and then we'll both sort of say who we think is the best shot and the worst shot.
Mm-hmm.
So with quarterbacks, we've got Drew Bledsoe, Randall Cunningham, Jake Delhomme, Jeff Garcia, Dave Craig, Peyton Manning, Donovan McNabb, Steve McNair.
All right, I'm going to start by saying I think only 2 of those players ever get in the Hall, although 3 should.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's pretty clear who the best chance is. It's Peyton Manning, because he's going to get in this year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's they already made his bust. Of course, they need a lot more time because of that damn forehead.
Yes, it's going to be interesting. Have you noticed now that he's not playing anymore and not taking the HGH, his forehead has shrunk again?
You know, you'd think I'd be noticing that since he's still in every damn commercial, but no, I'll have to sort of look at that.
Yeah, it's crazy how much his head has shrunk now that his wife is no longer receiving HGH. He was clear to that because the package had his wife's name.
And for those who were unaware of that, look it up. Evan's telling the truth. That really happened.
I am telling the truth, yeah. Because it was the same time that Rodney Harrison had gotten injured and fully admits that he ordered HGH in effort to try and get himself back in the field. And he said it got it shipped to himself under his own name. Peyton Manning's came like a week later, but was shipped to his wife, so everything was fine somehow. Rodney Harrison was rightly suspended. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been suspended. Rodney Harrison was rightly suspended for 4 weeks. Peyton Manning was not.
Well, she anyway. Was suspended. She couldn't attend team functions for 4 weeks, I'm sure.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. Anyway, so Manning's clear number 1. The other 2 I think will eventually get in are, I think Donovan McNabb will get in. I think Randall Cunningham should get in. How do you feel about that?
I'm very, very big on Cunningham. In terms of, like, we always talk about influence, and granted that doesn't necessarily translate into football, but I think it should. Randall Cunningham is the prototype for what we're seeing today. I truly believe that. McNabb has gotten such a shit deal, and I think if he didn't continue to play, I think if you take away that last year with the Redskins and that bit with the Vikings, I read it. I remember reading an article, I forget who, and I wish I could find it, but it was like at the time when he was a Redskin, where it literally said, Donovan McNabb is playing his way out of the Hall of Fame. And there's just something, I don't know why he gets so much hate. He has actually one of the lowest percentages of votes of anyone in the top 100 on the current list, and he keeps plummeting every year because I do respect the votes that come in, but someone please explain to me the hate towards Donovan McNabb. I get it if you're Terrell Owens, but even then I don't completely understand it. What am I not understanding about this guy?
I'm wondering how much that 2-minute drill where he was throwing up against the Patriots in the Super Bowl has something to do with it. But yeah, I mean, there's no question Donovan McNabb for much of his career. I mean, we talked about this Eli. Like, how often was Eli a top 5 quarterback during his career? The answer is probably no years.
Right.
McNabb was a top 5 quarterback during Eli's tenure. And yeah, he doesn't get any love. So I think eventually he'll get in. I think Cunningham should get in. I don't know at this point since it's been so long. But yeah, I think the other 2, the other 2 I think have maybe a weird shot. I mean, Bledsoe retired 6 in passing yards. But he's been passed so many times at this point. He's out. I think he's down at 12 or 13 now. And McNair has an MVP or co-MVP with Manning. But
with Bledsoe, if I could, the narrative on him is he's the guy whose injury allowed Brady to take over.
Yeah,
But
he's also the guy who brought. He's also the guy who brought legitimacy to a franchise that has now been great, with the exception of maybe a year here and there since 1993, since he was drafted. So
who's your worst guy?
Who knows? It's actually someone who started in a Super Bowl. It's Jake Delhomme.
Yep, mine too. Not even close.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Craig and Jeff Garcia. Wait, Garcia didn't start a Super Bowl. I don't think. Who started that Super Bowl? No.
No, Garcia never made a Super Bowl.
Yeah, so Jeff Garcia and Dave Craig are much better quarterbacks than Jake Delhomme, even though Delhomme started a Super Bowl and almost won that game. Mm-hmm. So Delhomme is definitely my last of the 8.
Yeah, I'm totally on the same thing. I mean, last year they had like one of the worst ones I ever saw. Jeff Hostetler was a preliminary nominee last year. How okay. I know
he's won a Super Bowl.
Sure. So did Trent Dilfer. I don't see his name ever.
Yeah.
Mark Rippon, I think, was actually a preliminary nominee once, I think a couple years ago, too.
Isn't Dilfer more known for saying the Patriots were dead when after they got beaten by the Chiefs a few years ago, and Belichick said on to Cincinnati? I mean, he's just as well known for that, I think.
I think he's also known for being a bald-headed bad analyst. That's was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
yeah. So I'm looking at last year's list. There's Randall Cunningham, Jake Delhomme, Boomer Esiason, Jeff Garcia, Jeff Hostetler, Dave Craig, and Donovan McNabb. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in that group, Jake Delhomme is not the worst.
No,
because Jeff Hostetler exists.
Oh, totally.
And Boomer, I think, is aged out at this point. But Boomer is at least somebody who should be on a preliminary list as somebody who's should be considered. He'll never make it. But Boomer Esiason was a very good quarterback for a very long time.
Absolutely. Former version of an MVP, I believe. I think he won the Burt Bell.
Mm. I could move on to running backs.
I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure Esiason was in the running for an MVP at one point. So running backs, we've got 17. Sean Alexander, Mike Allstott, Tiki Barber, Ernest Biner, Larry Centers, Corey Dillon, Warwick Dunn, Eddie George, Priest Holmes, Steven Jackson, who's here for the first time, Jamal Lewis, Eric Metcalf, Glenn Milburn, Lorenzo Neal, Fred Taylor, Herschel Walker, Ricky Waters.
Why don't you go first this time? Because I have a definite number 1 here as well.
Yeah, my number 1's pretty cut and dry. Actually, no, it's really not. I have a 1A, 1B. I'm really big, and we've talked about Herschel Walker before, where I think it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His USFL stuff should matter, where he was the best player in that league. But I want to see Sean Alexander get a look as a semifinalist. He's never been one. I think he's overdue.
Yeah, I still have Herschel Walker number 1 for me. I want to say number 2 for me is almost a 2-way tie, 2 and 3, between Sean Alexander and the almost historically criminally underrated at this point, Priest Holmes.
Yeah, I like Priest Holmes a lot too.
Scary as hell as a running back. Like, he was incredible. So, I mean, I think Walker's gets in. I don't understand why Sean Alexander, who has the league MVP, has not, which is hard to do as a running back, has not sniffed anything yet. But Priest Holmes is another one who I look at. And then some of these, then the names right below it. I mean, Eddie George was an incredible player for a long period of time. I will always love Corey Dillon. All the stuff he did for the early Patriots. It was one of those. It was weird, is because if you ever had Madden in 2001, 2002 as a Patriots fan, the first thing you would do is go trade for Corey Dillon as a running back. and then it happened because Corey Dillon was always available from the Bengals, and then it happened, and it was very strange because usually those trades you make don't come to life, but literally all of us would do it just to get a competent running back in there. So Dillon, Work, Dunn, and Allstott together, they almost feel like they'd have to go together. Both very, very good players. Jamal Lewis, really good player. I think the name that I have as last on this list, because I honestly did not remember who he was, and I think I followed football fairly well most of my life. I did not remember Glenn Milburn at all.
And I was the same. When I first read that, there was like two names that came to mind. I actually looked up the real name because it's like, wait a minute, isn't that the guy? Wasn't that the drag queen Divine? No, that was Glenn Milstead. Or wait a minute, wasn't that the one the older gentleman who was in the military who married Jaleesa in Different World? No, that was Glenn Turman.
Yeah, so
both of which have
Glenn
the same
Milburn
amount of chance to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
That's true. Glenn Milburn was not on the list last year, so why all of a sudden he's out there, and people who were on the list last year, like, I don't know, Maurice Jones-Drew or Clinton Portis, are not, I can't give you an answer. But he is here.
MJD is a bit of a surprise that he's not there.
Agreed.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, particularly, I mean, Fred Taylor's here and he's not. That seems a little bit strange. Again, two people tied together.
Mm-hmm. Well, Fred Taylor, I thought he was a surprise semifinalist last year. I don't know if that's going to happen again. It could. It very well could. Once you reach one plane, you're certainly helped out by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Once you're on the list, you tend to be there. By the way, other than that, I guess other than Glenn Milburn, Ernest Biner probably has the worst rep, I guess, of anyone here because of one play. That the Browns have never recovered from. So, yeah, I don't know. This is a pretty good list. There aren't that really many, other than Milburn, there aren't that many people I'm like, yeah, that person shouldn't be under consideration. Even someone like Larry Centers was one of the original prototype third down backs, catching the ball in the backfield for years for the Cardinals and the Patriots and a couple other teams. So I think everyone other than Milburn here pretty much belongs.
Right. So with the wide receivers, we've got 13. Donald Driver, who's probably leading the fan vote. I haven't checked because I think he led it last year for whatever reason. Henry Ellard, returning finalist Torrey Holt. First-year eligible Calvin Megatron Johnson. Chad Johnson. Derek Mason. Muhsin Muhammad. Jimmy Smith. Rod Smith. Hines Ward. Reggie Wayne, another returning finalist. And two new names, Wes Welker, Roddy White. There's not a weak name on this at all.
No, 100%. I'd say the weakest. I mean, if I had all these people to pick from, I'd probably go with Muhsin Muhammad last, but even he was a load to just guard. He was just so big and good at boxing out on stuff. And to say saying Muhsin Muhammad, who's like a career, using the Madden ratings, probably 84, 85 player, if that's your worst person, at least on my list, that's a damn good list.
No, I'm totally agreeing with you on that one. Muhammad, I feel like putting anyone last is a slap in the face of one hell of a wide receiver. Because all of these guys would be your top wide receiver for 5-6 years.
Yep. 100%. So who do you think has the best chance of getting in? Is it Holt or Wayne, who are finalists last year, or do you think Megatron comes in and jumps in line?
I think it's Reggie Wayne.
You think it's Reggie Wayne?
Yeah. That's who I have. Torrey Holt, for him, he made that threshold, which was fantastic to be a finalist. He was a semifinalist for a while. I don't see them going back-to-back Rams. Calvin Johnson, I don't think he's a lock to be a finalist. I really don't. I think he should be.
There are a lot of people who feel like he is, but I agree with you on that. It wouldn't be shocking to see him not as a finalist. I do have to say, though, they did put Swan and Stallworth in back-to-back over the before, but that was with Swan advocating heavily for Stallworth at the induction, and we haven't had an induction for Bruce. so we don't know what he would have said. So maybe now that one's in, the other one gets in. But I think I would put Wayne in first as well. How many of these guys do you think actually get in the Hall of Fame? I think those three get in, but does anyone else?
Jimmy Smith, I think there's a bit of momentum coming his way. I think he's another person I'd like to see sort of make a semifinalist. But beyond that, I really don't see it. And again, it's there's so much talent here. Chad Johnson might have acted his way out of a potential semifinalist spot.
Yep.
Which is
Ward.
Oh, Hines Ward. Sorry. Yes, no, definitely. Ward's been a multi-time semifinalist, but I think that's the level he's at. He's got to break.
There's always going to be someone jumping him.
I think so. And again, like a phenomenal player, former Super Bowl MVP. Love the guy, but Calvin Johnson will jump Hines Ward, I think.
Mm-hmm. How about Welker?
I love Welker. Was I believe, 3-time leader in receptions. Welker, though, I mean, he might be the best on this list that just doesn't make it to the semifinals this year.
Yeah. I mean, Donald Driver is also a heck of a guy. I'm not sure he's going to make it either.
Mm-hmm.
But no, Welker's, I mean, again, we talk about if you can't get your own team's Hall of Fame, how you can get anywhere. Welker's not even been nominated yet,
right,
which the fans have no control over. But Welker hasn't been nominated. I mean, yet. He's only had 1 year, and they decided to put Bill Parcells up instead. But, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me next year if it's three white guys on the Patriots list, it's going to be Vrabel, Welker, and Mankins, probably, will be the three finalists for the Pats Hall of Fame. So we'll see. If he gets in, if either he or Mankins, who we'll get to the offensive lineman, get in, then that might help them get over the threshold going forward. So anyway, good class of wide receivers. They did a good job.
Yeah. So we got 7 tight ends: Dallas Clark, Ben Coates, Keith Jackson, Brent Jones, Heath Miller, Jeremy Shockey, Wesley Walls. None of them are getting in.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. And I mean,
none are advancing.
Who do you think is the worst person on this list?
Shockey. I know he's got the super.
Yeah, I have Shockey as well.
And I know we always I always bring up my Saints bias, and he did win a Super Bowl with the Saints, but his peak wasn't very long, and all the other players either had longer careers or longer peaks. And again, nothing against Shockey.
Yeah, he was a pain in the ass.
Well, he was a pain in the ass, but one hell of an exciting player to watch. And again, I feel like I'm picking, I don't know, it's like my least favorite pie. You know, it's these are great players, and when I say so emphatically, none of them are getting in. They're not, but this is any team would want one of those guys for a 5-year period. Any team, and you'd be thrilled with who you have on tight end.
Yeah, hold on one second. I'm looking up Pro Football. There we go. I'm just looking up the 90s All-Decade team here for a second, which is hiding there. Because I believe Coates is on it.
I think you're right. I'm an advocate for Coates.
It's Shannon Sharp and Ben Coates.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one person who I don't think he's getting in anywhere other than a Veterans Committee. But at some point, when you've gotten we had the conversation, the only person left from the 70s and 80s All-Decade team offenses who isn't in the Hall of Fame is Drew Pearson. If all of a sudden we get to the 90s and it's just like everybody's in now except for Coates, that may help him in the future. So I'm not going to say Coates is a never, but he's a long time out.
Right. Yeah, and that's probably more accurate. Offensive linemen, 20 good ones here.
This list should just be who they have.
Oh my God, yeah.
This list is incredible.
Yeah, Big Willie Anderson, Matt Burke, returning finalist Tony Baselli, Lomas Brown, Reuben Brown. Vinny and I talk about this guy all the time. 9-time Pro Bowler who wasn't a preliminary finalist last year.
That's insane.
Oh, absolutely. Alan Faneca, returning finalist. And, my opinion on, I'll just say it right now, the best of this list.
You and I agree on that. Faneca, we both think should have been in 2 years ago when they put Mawai in, and last year they put Hutchinson.
Yeah.
We had Faneca over both those guys.
Absolutely.
And at this point, if Tony Baselli jumps him, he must have done something to the nominee, to the people. Like, if they both get in together, fine. But at this point, Faneca sticks out so much for not getting in that he has to be a member of this class.
He has to be. But, I mean, it could happen to him again. DeBerkeshaw Ferguson, first-year eligible. Kevin Glover, Jordan Gross, Kent Hull, Olin Kreutz, Logan Mankins for the first time, and second time mentioned on the show. Tom Nolan, another great player who wasn't nominated last year.
Tom Nolan, when he was playing, I thought was a Hall of Famer. Like, he just seemed like a Hall of Famer. He was the connection between Elway and Manning. He was like the guy, other than Zimmerman, on that offensive line. And I'm surprised that he wasn't on last year. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Centers are always overlooked, but
true. Chris Samuels, Jeff Saturday, Chris Snee, Brian Waters, friend of the show, Richmond Webb, Eric Williams, and if I'm correct, I believe his last shot as a modern era finalist, Steve Wisniewski.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is Wisniewski's last shot. He's not going to get in.
No. I've never been a finalist. He's been a multi-time semi-finalist. He'll probably be one again. So, I mean, I see going through Baselli, Faneca. Mankins could get through.
To the semifinals, certainly, yeah. There may be too many offensive linemen for making finalist list, but he is. If you're going to take one offensive lineman from the Patriots dynasty, even though he somehow played for the Patriots, he got there the year after they won their first set and then left the year before they won their second three. But he's still the defining offensive lineman of those teams.
I don't even know who I put as my worst. Or the least likely. I shouldn't say worst because that's not right. Or the least likely.
I think it's Snee, and again, someone who I would really, really like. But I'm just looking at everybody here. I think it's Chris Snee.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Jordan Gross, maybe, but
whose parents I met once, by the way, Chris Snee. The Giants and Patriots played a preseason game, and my stupid friends and I were somehow up in the balcony sitting next to Chris Snee's parents, who are wonderfully nice people. But I think this is not meaning to offend him at all, because one heck of a player, but he's probably the lowest on this list for me.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
And one person who has gotten a lot of love here in Chicago, but not a lot of love overall, is Olin Kreutz, who I believe is now the last member of the 2000s All-Decade Team offensive line not to be a finalist. There are only two of them who are not in the Hall right now at all positions. It's Faneca and Kreutz. And Kreutz is the only one who's not been nominated for as a finalist yet. I don't think he's even made the semifinals yet.
No, he hasn't.
But I mean, he's ahead of Burke and Nolan, who are his who are two again incredible centers who are his contemporaries. So I don't know what that means if he's ever getting in, but he's higher on the list than you might think. So.
So let's go to the defensive side of the ball. We got 15 defensive linemen. John Abraham, first-year eligible Jared Allen. Ray Childress, who was, again, another curious one who was left off last year. Leroy Glover, first day with my new mouth. Casey Hampton, Leslie O'Neill, Michael Dean Perry, who had a McDonald's burger named after him at one point in Cleveland area. Useless fact. Simeon Rice, Richard Seymour, Justin Smith, Neil Smith, Greg Townsend, Justin Tuck, Kevin Williams, and Bryant Young. Seymour and Young were finalists last year. You and I are both huge on Seymour. Is this his year to go all the way through?
I think it depends on whether Jared Allen makes the finalist list or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Bryant Young is a threat to Seymour.
No,
Jared Allen, though, I mean, we have two surefire first ballot Hall of Famers coming in this year. We have some others who are going to be competitive, one of whom may be Megatron, one of whom is Jared Allen. So I think that only one defensive lineman is going to get through. I think one will get through. If Jared Allen's on the list, it would not surprise me with his sack numbers and his charisma and everything out if Allen ends up being the guy over Seymour. But Seymour certainly deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the top two to me. What do you say?
I'm the same. I'm the exact same.
Yeah. I'd like to throw a little bit of love towards John Abraham, who was an incredible player for, the Falcons for years, but he just, and I guess the Jets, but he was just unblockable for years. And even into his late 30s, he was a heck of a player. Who do you have last in this group?
Again, I love them all, but I guess Townsend.
Yeah, and Justin Smith, I don't know if he played long enough.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, Townsend is another one. Leroy Glover was really good. Kevin Williams was really good. Casey Hampton's really good. Justin Tuck's really good.
Neil Smith was fantastic.
Neil Smith was crazy on those Broncos teams. And Simeon Rice, I know a lot better than you do. We've had this conversation before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a strong list again.
Yeah, same with the linebackers. So we have Cornelius Bennett, who has campaigned on Twitter for a Hall spot. Lance Briggs.
As a Patriots fan in the 80s when I first started, Cornelius Bennett and Darryl Talley just absolutely annihilated us year after year after year. Bruce Smith clearly is the most remembered member of that defense, but those two guys were just always killers and were so good. I don't know how many Bills from those teams ever are going to end up getting in. We already have Levy, Smith, Kelly, Thurman Thomas, and Andre Reed. So how many are going to get in from a team that's not won Super Bowl? But they went to 4 consecutive ones. Bruce Smith was not the only person on that defense.
No. I'd like to see Bennett sort of get a shot at a semifinalist. Might happen, might not. Teddy Bruschi, London Fletcher, Seth Joyner. Last year of eligibility, Clay Matthews Jr., Jared Mayo, Willie McGinnis, Sam Mills, who was a bit of a surprise as a finalist last year, Joey Porter, Chris Spielman, Takeo Spikes, Pat Swilling, Darryl Talley, Zach Thomas, Patrick Willis. Yeah,
so Patrick Willis was in the Megatron seat last year.
Right.
Shorter career, and everyone convinced he was going to be a finalist and then didn't make it. But Willis is someone who will eventually be in this Hall of Fame. I'm rooting for Zach Thomas, another absolute beast in the AFC East for years and years and years. He and oh my God, his name just went right on my head. The defensive lineman who got in a couple years ago. I can't think of his name.
I can see his face too. Jason Taylor.
Jason Taylor.
Yeah.
So yeah, he and Jason Taylor were the heart and soul of that Miami defense. Again, they never won anything, but Zach Thomas was a tackling machine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great to see him get through as a finalist last year. He deserves to be in. Of these other people, London Fletcher is another guy who I think is criminally underrated. Lance Briggs played next to Urlacher and sort of gets lost because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Another criminally underrated player. And as much as I love Teddy Bruschi, I understand he'll never be a Hall of Famer. Willie McGinnis, though, is another one of those players who doesn't get as much love as I always feel he should from these Patriots teams. The Patriots have one defensive Hall of Famer out of all this whole decade, all these times. Seymour may be the second, maybe Will Fork gets in, but I don't want McGinnis to get forgotten in this whole thing.
there's, again, such a great list of players here. I think I want to get your take on with Matthews Jr., because there's a lot of hype for him to get into the Pro Football Hall. His daughter campaigns vigorously on his behalf.
So I didn't. Clay Matthews, you said. Yeah, I didn't hear you. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So, and he's like the defensive Jim Marshall. Long, very good career. Was he great on occasion? It just reminds me of Jim Marshall a lot. Like a really, really good player, really solid, and it's like a lifetime achievement award. But like you were saying before, and we're going to get to that second player. We already have 2 first-year locks, we think. You're fighting for 3 spots.
Yeah, you're fighting for 3 spots. One is almost definitely going to go to defensive lineman. Mm-hmm. One is almost definitely going to go to offensive lineman.
Right.
So now you're really fighting for 1 spot, because one of those offensive linemen is getting it. Mawai or Baselli or both are getting it.
I mean Faneca.
I'm sorry, I said Mawai. Faneca. Sorry, Faneca. And I see in my head, I already think Faneca's in.
Yes,
Faneca or Baselli or both are getting in. One of them is getting it.
So Matthews Jr., for him to even make it as a finalist, I think is critical for any shot as a senior candidate.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to. And
they made. I'm sorry. I'm just going back to this. They made such a mistake only having 1 spot for senior candidates. What the hell? Sorry, I'm off my soapbox. But
no, I mean,
there's so many people that stuck back there.
Absolutely, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. Beyond Deion Sanders, I don't really know anyone who's that much against having a larger haul. I mean, you have the most players. You should have the biggest haul. It's not that hard to figure out.
I mean, what does the coach at Jackson State University know anyway? You heard that today, right?
I did.
You heard that today? He got named coach at Jackson State.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to tell you, by the way, the worst player on this list, and he was a heck of a player but had a very short career, is Patriot Gerard Mayo.
Yeah.
So Mayo is the weak link on this list.
And again, it's not even that weak a link. Mine was more. I was leaning more towards Takeo Spikes, who I like. I mean, I loved watching another guy. I just loved watching him play, but I never thought he was great. I thought he was like really, really good.
Takeo Spikes was the best linebacker in whatever team didn't make the playoffs.
I think that's on his LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, he was with the Bengals, who never did anything when he was there. And then he was on the 49ers, and yeah. By the way, I didn't go through and start counting Bengals. There are more here than I anticipated. So maybe that's a good sign for them. Although none of them are getting in, but still, it's a better sign for them. So.
Yeah, Vinny and I, we've always said the Cincinnati Bengals fans. They are the only fan base in the National Football League that have a legitimate gripe 100% of the time that they are criminally underrepresented in Canton, Ohio.
Yeah. They have, we brought up before, they have 1 player and 2, in the history of the NFL, only 3 players have ever donned the Bengals jersey and made the Hall of Fame. 1 spent his entire career there, and 2 passed through, and that is it. It's nuts. That franchise has been around for almost 50 years at this point.
Yeah, and yes,
it's over 50 years at this point.
Well, no, it might be a hard luck franchise, but it's also a team that won 2 conference titles.
Yeah, and ran into Joe Montana both times. What are you going to do? Believe me, they would have loved to play Jeff Hostetler.
Oh, yes. Jeff Hostetler. Love that.
By the way, this group, the defensive backs, is the top level of this, maybe the highest top level of any group, and that's crazy. The incredible ability of offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, how deep it is. Mm-hmm. But the top level of defensive backs here is very, very high.
Oh, my God.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So Eric, we have 18 of them. Eric Allen, Rondé Barber, who I'm huge on. Leroy Butler.
I am as well.
Yeah, Leroy Butler, former finalist. Nick Collins, Merton Hanks, Rodney Harrison, James Hasty, Albert Lewis, John Lynch, very underrated Tim McDonald, Alan Rossum, Asante Samuel, who was left off the list last year, Bob Sanders, first-year eligible Charles Tillman, Troy Vincent, Adrian Wilson, Charles Woodson, Darren Woodson.
Yeah, so one of these can't make it for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. But Charles Woodson is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes. So he's taken that second spot, which...
Yeah, so, he and Manning are in.
So that really hurts, certainly, John Lynch, I think, the most. Because he got leapfrogged again.
Yeah.
And again, no disrespect to Lynch. He's rightfully leapfrogged by Woodson.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean, though, they won't take him.
Lynch is becoming the chic of the list, though.
The Chic?
The Chic, the band Chic.
Oh,
because Lynch has now been a finalist 7 times. He'll be a finalist again. It's his 8th time.
I was watching pro wrestling earlier this morning, and I saw the Iron Sheik. Yeah, it's like the Iron Sheik. What the hell?
No. So, yeah, John Lynch is going to be a Hall of Famer. The question is when. Mm-hmm. And John Lynch needs to get in, I think, before Rondé Barber gets in the finals list.
Because we have a Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce situation happening now with those two.
Yeah.
Butler made it to the leaped, pardon the pun, into the finalists last year. I think he's going to have to wait. And again, another great player. I think he'll become a finalist again, but he could slip down.
Yeah, if he fell out, that wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean he and Sam Mills, I think, and Bryant Young were the 3 real surprise finalists last year.
Mm-hmm.
If none of the 3 of them were on there, that would not be shocking. I mean, if instead of those 3 you saw, let's just take Jared Allen and Megatron and somebody else. I'll just pick Rondé Barber just for a 3rd. Like, nobody's going to be upset about that.
I think this year, when we do a sort of our preview show for the Pro Football Hall of Fame finalists, we already know that we're going to go 2 for 5. I think the other 3 are, I don't want to say crapshoot, but it kind of feels like it's going to be.
Here's the question here. How many of these folks do you think make the Hall of Fame?
Okay. I think Rondé's going to get in eventually.
Yep.
Once some of this clears out. Butler will get in. Lynch is definitely getting in.
And Woodson's getting in. So that's 4.
Well, I got 4 for sure. But I could see a 5th happening.
Yeah. Who's your 5th?
Darren Woodson.
Darren Woodson? I mean, as a Patriots fan, Rodney Harrison...
He's my 6th.
This is why Pro Bowls are stupid.
Yeah.
This is why Pro Bowls are stupid. Rodney Harrison only ever made 1 Pro Bowl, and Brandon Merriweather made 2. But Rodney Harrison was one of the most feared players in the league on 2 teams, defensive captain on 2 championship teams, and one of the, maybe not the cleanest hitting players on the field. He always said he gave more to the retired players fund than pretty much anyone in league history. But I'm a huge Rodney Harrison guy, and I mean the fact that Patriots fans had the choice of Rodney Harrison or Seymour last year, or I guess not this year, but the year before for the Hall of Fame, and it was overwhelmingly Harrison. Shows you how much Patriots fans appreciated what he did. So he's somebody interesting. Bob Sanders for the Colts was a heat-seeking missile. Troy Vincent for the Eagles was incredible. I mean, there's certain people like Merton Hanks is really good. He's never getting in. Asante Samuel dropped the ball that would have won us the Super Bowl for the undefeated season. So I just on principle he can't get in.
He also makes an ass of himself on a regular basis on social media.
No, I don't think I ever noticed that. I don't follow Asante.
He's a little vocal and how do I put this? Not the most articulate individual. Typing is not his strength.
Oh, good. I got nervous there for a second. I just saw that Van Morrison was trending, but he's releasing a new bunch of songs. So I got nervous there for a second. I hope one of his songs he goes la 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 la, because that's what he does. Well, sorry. So I think out of 18, we have 4 definitely getting in, maybe 5 or 6. Eric Allen was also very, very good, and has some of the most piercing eyes of all time. I don't know if that makes any difference, but that man's eyes are beautiful. I don't mind saying that's another man.
I've never fallen into his eyes. I'll have to sort of look that up.
Yeah. So, who do you think is the worst person here? The name that doesn't seem to belong to me more than any is James Hastings. Yeah, even though he was good.
Yeah, Nick Collins to me another good player, but he's not Hall of Fame material.
Alan Rossum's another one too. Yeah. But the top of this list is really, really good. So, all right, special teamers, let's go. Who we got?
All right, punters, kickers. I think we're just gonna whip right through this. David Akers, kicker. Gary Anderson, kicker. Jason Elam, kicker. Jeff Fiegels, punter. Jason Hansen, kicker. John Kasay, kicker. Sean Landetta, punter. Ryan Longwell, kicker. Nick Lowry, kicker. Reggie Roby, punter. Ron Stark, punter. Matt Turk, punter. I don't know if any of these guys are ever going to get in, not because some of them, like Akers, Anderson, Landetta was really, really good.
Yeah, Landetta. I was going to say, if any of these guys get in, I think it's Landetta.
Yeah, but even then, it's Ray Guy. I mean, during the lockdown, and I think I mentioned this a few times on previous shows, I was watching old 80s games, just because I needed my sports fix, and just finding full games, and a lot of them just happened to be the Raiders. The difference maker that Ray Guy was, and he had to wait until he was a senior finalist. And then as soon as they got him to that point, I mean, they were going to put him through. But when you're looking at a punter or even a kicker, you're always going to find 5 other guys that you can make a better case for, always. And that's good. That's why I don't think that Adam Vinatieri is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he's got a resume of one, but I don't think he's going to go in right away. Not because of what he did, because of where he played. That's really what I think. So none of these guys are making the semifinals. If anyone does, it might be just due to the accumulation Anderson, but I don't see it. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I honestly think the next punter who has a shot at getting in is Shane Leckler.
I agree.
Who's not eligible for another couple of years. I'm actually looking at this list. I'm shocked to realize that Ryan Longwell's been out of the league long enough, because I always feel like I had him in my fantasy team every year. But I've been playing fantasy for so long, I forgot that he's out of the league. But yeah, none of these kickers are ever getting in. Even David Akers. What was his name? The Swami's Chris Berman's Green Acres thing whenever he kicked a field goal for the Eagles. But none of these guys are getting in. And I'll also say Gary Anderson was second team all decade. Landetta was second team all decade. The first team all decade, by the way, Darren Bennett, I don't think has ever been on one of these things for the 1990s. No one could win.
No, and then again, it's some really good players here, but there's a definite position bias when it comes to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and this is certainly there. I mean, the fact that they even have 12 at all of kickers and punters is shocking to me.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, by the way, just going back to the All-Decade team, like the 4 cornerbacks for the All-Decade team for the 2000s are Champ Bailey, Charles Woodson, Ty Law, and Rondé Barber. Bailey is in, Law's in, Woodson's going to be in, and Barber's never even been a finalist. It's like his 4th year. It's weird. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's so all we have left now are special teams. None of these guys are getting in either. Josh Cribbs, Mel Gray, Brian Mitchell, and Steve Tasker, who is the best special teams player, I don't know about ever, but of that generation. Yeah, it could definitely make an argument.
I mean, who is his competition? His competition is probably still playing.
That's true. Well, you definitely got to figure Matthew Slater is pulling for Tasker, as he should.
Oh yeah, well, Matthew Slater has said that multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And Jackie Slater has said that multiple times, pulling for his son. So yeah, I mean, Tasker's never going to make it off this ballot. I don't know if is this his last year or is next year his last year?
Well, I'm going to look that up really quick. I think this is his last kick at the can.
Yeah, I think it's this year. So he's not going to be a finalist. He's not going to get there. He may be a semifinalist. He's been semifinalist before. He's not going to get in, and the way they have all the senior committee set up, he's not going to get in there either for like another decade.
He's got one more shot.
Yeah. So unless at some point they're just like, we need to put like what they did with Ray Guy, we just need to have an up or down vote on him. Unless he gets that somehow with all the other folks out there, he's not getting in. And Josh Cribbs, as good as he was, the kick returner with a shot is Devin Hester, who comes up next year. And just Cribbs, congratulations, you're here. Mel Gray, who is also an incredible kick returner, congratulations, you're here. But if Billy White Shoes Johnson can't get in, it's hard to imagine, who's on 2 All-Decade teams. Mm-hmm. It's hard to imagine anyone else really getting in as a pure kick returner other than maybe Hester. Dante Hall's been on this list before, but he's not here this year, so as a preliminary person, it was a little surprising as well.
Yeah, so I just got everything spoiled here on for like on my fantasy football. So the person I'm playing against just sent me a message. I can't believe you left Kareem Hunt on the bench.
Helpful.
Yeah, so of course I had to go check this out. Like, I can't. I didn't see him doing this. Jesus.
I'm currently tied 0-0. So. I have one of my friends who I beat in week 1 has Nick Chubb and Odell Beckham on his bench, but AJ Green in. So he has currently 36 points sitting on his bench and 4 in the game.
Well, I don't expect the number 2 running back to do this much.
Right.
All right, Wes, how many points did I just leave off? Do I dare even look? I might as well. God damn it.
Kareem Hunt with 20 points.
Ah, crap.
At least in my league. We have a PPR league, so I haven't really looked any deeper than that, but that's where he is.
Well, I have the full confidence in Devin Singletary.
I have him in my lineup. He's taking over. I had Le'Veon Bell in there for that first week and as a receiving thing to see what happened. But I have Singletary was on my bench. I should have reversed him. It didn't matter last week. But now Singletary's in and Le'Veon Bell's on the IR. The first Jet I've had on my roster on any capacity for over 15 years. I'm not kidding. Not because I hate the Jets. They really don't matter as a franchise, as a Patriots fan. I like to think they do. But legitimately since Santana Moss, there hasn't been any player on their team you'd really want on your fantasy.
I don't even know who I'm going to use as my flex. I got either Antonio Gibson, and I just picked up Naheem Hines, because with Marlon Mack out, that's who I was thinking was sort of like going to do much better. Oh, crap. Cleveland got 6 points last week. What am I supposed to think?
And fantasy football.
Yeah, well, what a great way to sort of end. Yeah. So I guess I'm not watching the second half of this shitty game. God damn it. Again, why I care so much about winning a fantasy football league with people I don't see anymore in a company I don't work for anymore.
Yeah. We have to say in Barbados, so goddamn team. So.
Well, I got to get it out now because no one else in this country can feel my pain. I don't think anyone would understand when I said I'm playing fantasy football. What?
Yeah. Well, on that note, we've gotten pretty far on getting our nominating committee down here. Mm-hmm. We're moving in the right direction. Let's see if we can get that together and hopefully get some stuff out to folks and see if that helps. If send me the list over that you have, and I'll let you know what I think. If there's anyone who's been left off, we can send that out to people who we've talked to. Maybe that will help if they don't have to put in a ton of effort, if you know what I mean.
Yep. No, sounds good.
And go from there. So, excellent, man. Thanks a lot. It's been an hour and a half. My God. Time flies when you're talking about 122 football players.
130.
130 football players. Yeah, it was 122 last year. I have them both up so I can compare who was there last year and this year. So.
All right. And I'm sure we'll come up with something next week. We always do.
Always do. All right, man. Talk to you later.
All right, later. Thank you all for listening. Look for regular content from us at nothallofame.com and stay safe, everyone.